Ready to go, fired up. Ready to go, fired up. Isn't that what Barack Obama said during his campaign season? Went on to victory twice. It is Eagles Cowboys week. Let's get with this. I did not do a video on the Cowboys' triumph over the Chargers. Why should I? Because it was going to be plenty of content out there, and they did what they were supposed to do. I wasn't excited about that game. Didn't get excited at all about that game. I watched the game. I'm glad we won the game. I like how we won that game. Like with any coach, and I'm definitely not a coach, there's always some improvement that you can see in your team. I mean, I was happy the fact that we didn't have as many turnovers that we did in that game. We definitely need to minimize down to no turnovers for those Eagles. This is the week. This is the week. Sunday, the boys will ride into Philadelphia, the city they call brotherly love. And we're going to get it on because they can't get along. Yes, ready to go, fired up. I lived in Philly for about 20 years, close to 20 years. Came to Philly in 1987 as a Dallas Cowboy fan. Boy, to my awakening, I did not see, I realized that the hatred, the vitriol they had for the Dallas Cowboys, the fans there, the locals, the media. I lived there for a lot of years, and I seen a lot of NFL teams come into Philadelphia. And matter of fact, I lived in South Philadelphia for a spell, right down the street from the stadium. And they would prepare for the NFL team like any other NFL team would prepare for a team coming into their city. But when it was Dallas week, oh my goodness. I didn't see it. I didn't know it was going to be this kind of hatred. Otherwise, I would never came to Philadelphia. But I had to come. I was expecting a child. My ex-wife then was having our first kid. And so there was my exit out of the Marines, marriage, and a new baby boy. The irony of that is, this comment, I'm actually going to Philadelphia to watch the game with my oldest son, that firstborn. All right, I digress a little bit here. I did not know that the Philadelphia Eagles and their organization, their franchise, the city, the media had this disdain for my team. And they never broke me. What I love about Philadelphia, and it's a lot of things I love about Philadelphia, to be honest with you, is I love their food, their cuisines. You can get all kind of. Philly is known for their cheesesteaks, their hoagies, and that's how you pronounce the sub. You pronounce it as a hoagie. If you're pronouncing it as a sub, then you're out of town, or you're eating someplace else, not inside of Philadelphia. You don't call it steak and cheese. You call it a steak, a cheesesteak. That's what you call it. You don't call it a Philly cheesesteak. You call it a steak or cheesesteak. If you see it on the menu and it's saying Philly cheesesteak, it's not a true cheesesteak if they got the word Philly in front of it. So I love the cuisine, the different foods you get in Philadelphia, and I also love that it's a sports town. Oh, they love their sports and they love their football team. And I was like in a Mecca. I was in South Philly. I mean, there for the Sixers, the Flyers, the Phillies, and those filthy Eagles. The company I worked for back in those days, we actually I was working for a general contractor, and we built their current stadium that they play in. And I was part of that process. So it has some great memories, but it has some horrible memories when it comes to the Cowboys and how they treat the fans, who's the Cowboy fans and really how they treat the players. I was there when the playmaker career ended. It's in my very first video. In my very first video, the company I had, we had a suite. And I would go to the game only once a year because that's the Cowboys playing once a year in Philly. That's the only game I would attend. Cowboys come to town. They had a good team that year. Of course, playmakers on that team. I can't remember if Emmett retired at that time or well, no, Emmett was still playing, so it had to be had still been on the team. I remember watching the playmaker go out on a pass panel route, and he got hit, and he wasn't moving. Meaning his head hit the turf. I remember, other than the playmaker not moving, I remember the cheering, the clapping, the gloating. The locals were showboating that the playmaker was not moving. They had to bring a stretcher out there. His career was over. Michael Irvin never played another down of football. And the fans clapped and cheered. The disdain, the vitriol they have for the Cowboys, and I could never understand why. I would ask many Eagle fans, why? Where did this hatred come from? Because as I grew up as a Dallas Cowboy fan, the rivalry in the NFC East was the Cowboys and the Redskins. Redskins, Cowboys, Indians, Cowboys. That was the rivalry. Actually, it was nationally known. There was a national known rivalry between the Eagles and the Cowboys. It was locally. It was a one-way rivalry locally. In their minds, they thought it was. But guess what? Over time, they have made it a national rivalry. The Eagle fans, give them some credence. They have made it a national rivalry. So one of the things I used to love to do, especially during this week, the Cowboys-Eagles week, whether they was coming to Philadelphia or Eagles was going to Irving, Texas, I used to love to listen to their sports talk radio, their local sports talk radio, which is probably, in my view, if not the best, one of the best in the nation. And the fans are very well informed until it comes to the Philadelphia Eagles. They are informed. That's when they become delusional when it comes to the Eagles. Now, as of late, they have a Super Bowl. They've been there twice, and so they are. They're in my view, they are the best team in the National Football League right now, the Philadelphia Eagles. So I want to give you a little brief history on the Eagles. You can get this at Wikipedia, any place else on the Facebook. On the internet. So I was listening to WIP yesterday and this morning, and you know who's more delusional than the Philadelphia Eagle fan is the former player of the Eagles, a Philadelphia Eagles former player. They are the most delusional, the most. So I think Ike Reese is his name. Played for the Eagles, and probably played for other teams as well. But you drink that Kool-Aid when you come to Philly. You play for them, the fans make sure you drink that Kool-Aid. That Jim Jones Kool-Aid, you become in love with the Eagles. Even though you probably didn't go to school there, you didn't grow up there, you just played there. You drink that Kool-Aid and that becomes your team. So all the radio commentators, announcers, whatever, WIP, and you can find them on Odyssey, and you can just stream them on Odyssey and listen to their morning show, which from the morning show to late at night, it's all about the Eagles and the Cowboys and the hatred. So if you're Cowboy fans outside of this area, just go ahead, download the Odyssey app, and I'm going to give WIP a plug and listen to the hate. So Ike Reese, I forget what the question was exactly. It was more like, the question was an honest question on what the call-in fan, expected the game to unfold when they play. And so it sounded like to me the Philly fan was trying to be objective and, want to give the Cowboys its props because the Cowboys have a decent team. They're not better than the Eagles. I would go on the record and say that. They're not better than the Eagles. But, you fight, still line up and fight. I'm gonna fight you. You probably kick my ass, but I'm gonna fight you. We're gonna line up and fight, and you never know what's gonna happen. You never know. It could be that off. That's why you have to. That's why they play the game. You line up and you play. Okay. And so, Ike Reese make this comment. I wish I had written it down. Something on the lines that Cowboys are garbage. Ike Reese sounds like he has some male pubic hair caught in his throat, or he has been, just left the dentist. You have this real deep voice, and I'm like, and so a lot of times it's hard to make out. And I always wonder, how did he get this job? And I guess part of the, being accepted at this job is hating the Cowboys. That's one of the criteria. You have to hate the Cowboys. So it's just hard for me, but he's been at this position of this for a long time. This Ike Reese guy. So he really hate the Cowboys. This, again, we can just do a good cough, get this hair out the back of his throat, this male hair out of the back of his throat, pubic hair. I think he would, sound better. And then when he starts to laugh, it even makes it worse. Like he's really struggling with the hair in his back of his throat. So he has this disdain as well for the Cowboys in the organization, everything about the Cowboys and the fans, and just right. So, okay, all right, we live in your head. The Dallas Cowboys live in the heads of all Philadelphia Eagle fans. I kid you not. Because I live at ground zero. I lived in Philadelphia. So I'm telling all Cowboy compadres, please believe me. The Dallas Cowboys we have free rent in the Philadelphia Eagle fans' heads. We have free roam 24/7. And then there's this other former Eagle player, Seth Joyner. This guy, he's hilarious to me. Seth Joyner was a hell of a football player. He was a hell of a linebacker for the Eagles. And so it was a question, what do you think about the Dallas Cowboys when you played? No, what was your fondest memory when you played for the Cowboys? That was the question. What was your fondest memory when you played for against the Cowboys? His response: beating the hell out of them. Beating the hell out of the Dallas Cowboys. So we live in his head too. So I'm thinking, when did he play? That's right, he played during the Buddy Ryan era. The late 80s. Very early 90s, but mid to late 80s he played during the Buddy Ryan era. And if you are, OG Cowboys fan, you know that Dallas was on the downslide during the late 80s. In 89, we hit the first pick in the draft. We drafted Troy Aikman, number one pick of all. Tom Landry last year was 1988. He drafted the playmaker out of the University of Miami, the U. So this was the start of the dynasty of the draft. And it's on record that Tom Landry, if he was unceremoniously let go, the following year he was going after Troy Aikman. So Jimmy Johnson didn't have this, it wasn't just Jimmy Johnson who's an excellent coach, second all-time greatest coach for the Cowboys that had his crosshair set on Troy Aikman, and then after that came Emmitt Smith, and so on, so forth and so on. But Seth Joyner played against the Cowboys when the Cowboys were a bad team. In 1989, the Cowboys won one game. One game. 1-15. And living in Philadelphia at that time, they will be so excited beating a bad team. So if you follow your history, you know that the Eagles did not appear or won a Super Bowl during that time. During that time, they was beating a bad team. That harkens me back to, if you recall back in the day when I was a comic book collector, read comic books. Some of the advertisements, one of the advertisements was these two characters were at a beach. And, I think this one guy was really frail. He was thin. And this one guy was really buffed. And I guess they both liked the same girl. Anyhow, I think the thin guy was on the beach sitting next to an attractive girl. And this big guy comes by and kicks sand on him, knowing that the guy too frail to retaliate. And so I guess the advertisement was about, some sort of minerals or substance to buff up and weightlifting. And then later on, the advertisement showed that same thin character got big and was able to win the girl back. And anyhow, I say that to pair the Cowboys being beaten at that time, or the Eagles beating the Cowboys. Cowboys was a bad team, but they would gloat about it. So that would be their Super Bowl twice, 2 times a year. That would be their, I kid you not, because if you look at the history of them beating the Cowboys during that period, right after the next game, they had a poor winning percentage. So they get fired. So again, the Cowboys never played. I never wanted to reach that intensity level to play against the Eagles as the Eagles did with the Cowboys. It was always Cowboys intensity rose when we played against the Redskins. Here come the early to mid 90s, the 49ers. So the history of the National Football Conference, you have the Cowboys, the 49ers, and the Rams. Cowboys, 49ers, and Green Bay, not the Rams. And so those was the big game rivalry. Those was the NFC Conference Championship rivalries right there. It wasn't the Eagles-Cowboys. It was never. And I think the Eagles wanted it to be, and they couldn't understand why they couldn't, get the Cowboys to bring that same intensity that they brought against the 49ers or, Green Bay, the Packers. But yeah, that's so Seth Joyner. Seth, you played against a bad team. You never won a Super Bowl when you beat the Cowboys. You never did. You never won a Super Bowl. You beat a bad team. Now, when the Cowboys beat the 49ers in the championship game or the Packers, that's when you gloat because you beat a good team. You beat a good team. But I'm not going to gloat and, push my chest out because I beat somebody that I know I could whoop. Why would it? Okay, all right. That's what I find hilarious. That when I feel the Eagle fans are poking their face and their chest out and gloating when they're beating a bad team. Right now, the Cowboys are not a bad team. They're a good team. They're not better than the Eagles. So if you beat what is now considered to be a rivalry, I can understand you gloating. Whew. This is Eagle Cowboy Week, Cowboy Eagles Week. I'm excited. I'm J-Mac Sport 24/7. It's your time, first time coming through this channel. I really appreciate it. If you got this far, you give me a like, smash that like button, and consider subscribing to the channel. Thank you for coming by. Into the next video. Next video, I'm going to do. I'm going to give you my take on the game plan, how I think the Cowboys can beat the Philadelphia Eagles. we do have a puncher's chance of beating the Eagles. Because as I alluded to, the Eagles are the better team, not only in the division, but in the whole league right now. I know their defense is not playing so, and if you listen to the radio in Philadelphia, that is their concern right now, their defense. More particularly their pass defense. So on my next video, I will give you my version of what I think a game plan should be to beat the Eagles. And I will be attending the game, as I mentioned, in Philadelphia at my son's house. And he's been a Philly fan, and I'll talk more about that as well. I should say Eagles fan, not a Philly fan. That being said, hit the like button, please. Subscribe if you can. Share. Peace.